Today's card of the day is Ivory Tower. 1 mana for an artifact with, at the beginning of your upkeep, you gain X life, where X is the number of cards in your hand, -4. I know this is a little awkward to go over, but I thought I'd take the time to talk about this card because I think there's a new printing coming out soon, and I'm definitely looking to catch that card because it's one of my favorites. Although it doesn't look particularly interesting, I think there's some decks where this could be useful in, and I just wanted to talk about some of those situations and maybe reasons to play this card or maybe not to play this card. I will say I think this card lends itself to more of an attrition-based strategy. So if you're playing combo or aggro, probably don't care too much about your life. But if you're playing in pods that have aggro, combo really doesn't care about life, I guess, either. This can be really strong. Or even aristocrat-based decks, because they also have this sort of like an aggro-y based strategy where like they really care about that loss of life. And this sort of gets around that if you're playing the more attrition-based game, where like you're gonna have a lot of cards in hand. And so that's my thought when I wanted to get this card, was I'm playing against a lot of those, and so I thought I'd add it in there. And so I added it, and what I found out, because I do play in more casual pods, or pods on the more casual side, or more casual players who aren't just like looking to immediately win by like turn 2 or 3, is that this sometimes draws aggro. Like people will end up attacking you just because you have the most life. Like at the early games of the early stages of the game, people are like, "Oh, you have a lot of life, so I'll just knock you down a bit. I'll just hit you there," which isn't bad. Like that's a way to answer the Ivory Tower. But like if there are a lot of games like that where like I get Ivory Tower, and there aren't enough games to offset that sort of feeling of me getting targeted because of Ivory Tower, I feel like this ended up getting excluded from my deck just because it is like one of those silver bullet cards that you can bring out sometimes if you have a card like Oswald to get it, or Artifact Tutor to get it and draw a lot of cards, or a decent amount of cards. If that doesn't happen enough, it's good to sort of tech it out. And that's what I felt about this. Like people were hitting me just because I had enough life, and I'm an attrition based deck, and so because you're trying to, lower my deck, my health, it was counterintuitive. It seemed counterintuitive, and I won't lie. Like this has been good in certain games where like they're pinging me for life, and I have like a bunch of cards in hand, and in that sense, maybe it does feel a little bit more because you have this out and you're already drawing a bunch of cards. The fact that this is gaining you life, it might seem like there aren't situations where like you can already handle like the aggro, but I think most of the time like this is sort of a early way and an easy way to sort of hold off aggro, right? Like a lot of decks I think are running lower on wrath counts, and if you're particular in that group or camp of people, you don't really want to waste too much against that, right? Like you want permanent effects that sort of last and keep on doing their thing while they're sort of doing something else, right? While they're like trying to hammer down on something that they obviously can't hammer down. And that is like the life gain from Ivory Tower. So that was my thought on this card. I think honestly, looking back, would you play it for 0 mana? 0 mana gain 4 life? I'm sorry, 0 mana gain X life? I think if you can gain a lot of cards in your hand, I think it's definitely worth thinking about. I know some people who will just play things like Adventurer's Journal, who gains life, but at the cost of being like a super expensive artifact. And I think this has the trade-off in that it definitely pushes you to definitely draw a lot of cards. The trade-off is like you can play super early, and even early, like you can still gain a decent amount of life, like maybe 1 or 2 every upkeep, because your first turn, say you have 7 cards in hand, play a card, a land, and you play this. Okay, well next turn you're gaining 3 life, right? And if you're sort of playing the attrition-based value strategy, you can hold up cards in your hand. All you need to do is play land, gain 3 life again, but then also you have mana up to sort of counteract anything anyone else is doing in the game. So that's the idea. If it's good or not, who knows? Especially for like a casual strategy, who knows? But hey, I got the card in foil and it looks sick, and I'm not sure if I played it in an actual game before on this channel, but that was the idea. I love the art, and yeah, that's my thoughts on this card. Let me know what y'all think about this card in the comments below. Would you play this over Adventurer's Journal? I know Adventurer's Journal is a little less strict in that you don't have to have more than 4 cards in order to actually trigger an effect, but at the cost of like, being able to, if you can set up consistently early in the game and your deck is to be an attrition deck, I think this is definitely going to win over Adventurer's Journal. I feel like Adventurer's Journal is nice to have, But like at 5 mana, do you really want to be doing that? But of course, Vintage Journal's not being played by everyone, so neither is this. But if you could pick one, which one would you pick? But yeah, let me know in the comments below. Peace out. Catch y'all later.